Hello and welcome to the Youth Skills Building Week. Thank you so much for making time to join me today. My name is Taroub Harb Faramand. I am the president and founder of YHER. YHER is a small organization working globally. So far, we have been working in 56 countries, and we currently have 28 active country programs. Our main focus area is gender equity, youth and social inclusion, gender-based violence prevention and response, collaboration, learning and adaptation, and monitoring, evaluation, and research. We invented and came up with an innovative methodology called IDARE. IDARE is based on the science of improvement, behavior change theory, and design thinking. The purpose of IDARE is to support governments, local organizations, colleagues in different countries, identify and implement solutions that work for them, with the purpose of improving outcomes in a variety of sectors. If you are interested in learning more about IDARE, please email me or send us comments when you attend this session on Twitter or also on LinkedIn. So today I will talk about signs of gender-based violence and understanding your options. Let us start by defining gender-based violence. Gender-based violence refers to any harmful act that is directed at an individual based on their gender. It is rooted in gender inequality, the abuse of power, and harmful norms. It is a very serious violation of human rights. In fact, it's the most prevalent violation of human rights and a life-threatening health and protection issue. It also applies to violence experienced by gender non-conforming people because their voices and access to care may be marginalized because of their gender identity. So there are many myths or facts related to gender-based violence. Some of us might think that this is a problem that doesn't relate to me, it's not in my community or in my country. Some of us might think that gender-based violence only happens in poor or uneducated families and communities. Some of us might think that some people deserve to be hit or subjected to any form of violence. Some of us might think that alcohol, drug abuse, stress, and mental illness cause gender-based violence. Some of us might think that gender-based violence is a personal problem. It's not my problem, it's somebody else's problem, and we should not be interfering or getting into their business. Some of us might think, if it was that bad, they would just leave. Why don't they leave? So tell me what you think about those statements, and please send us your comments. I will be interested in learning more about what's happening in your community. Gender-based violence starts early, and it affects all groups at any age. So as you can see here from the data presented in front of you, starting from age 15 or even younger, and to age 69 and older, gender-based violence is highly prevalent, and it affects a wide variety of people and different communities. It also is, we have very high levels of gender-based violence globally. As you can see, 75 million boys and 150 million girls globally are forced into sex. The number of boys and girls globally who witness violence in the home reached 275 million and more, especially now with COVID-19 situation. Gender-based violence is on the rise. The proportion of women who experience physical or sexual violence in their lifetime are 1 in 3. One of every 3 women are subjected to violence. 80% of adult victims know their rapist, and over 90% of youth know theirs. This is a frightening fact. Also, 90% of offenders never see justice. We need everybody to be engaged and involved and stand against gender-based violence so we can end this big problem. As you can see, these numbers are very high. So anybody who is subjected to gender-based violence might think they are alone. You are not alone. The numbers are high and many people are subjected to violence. We need to also take into consideration that men and boys are also subjected to gender-based violence. Unfortunately, this problem is not often reported. That's why we might not be able to see the numbers. It is associated with social, political, and ethnic conflict. It's not as common as you can see here, not because it's not common, it's not reported as common, I should say. And then there are fewer resources for men and boys. More and more countries now and more programs and organizations are focusing on identifying and supporting men and boys and other groups to identify and receive better services so we can address gender-based violence among them. What are the signs of gender-based violence? So persons who are subjected to gender-based violence might have a strong feeling of powerlessness and vulnerability. They might have anger, aggression as a reaction to the feelings of powerlessness. They might be fearful. They might be withdrawn, loss of trust, inability to see the future. They feel that like they have feeling of being dirtied or loss of self-esteem. They wish to avoid other people because they feel shameful. They fear any physical contact with their colleagues or with their partners, and also they might fear having sexual relations with intimate partners because of the situation they have been subjected to. They might feel feelings of anxiety, panic attacks, and flashbacks to the situation that they have been subjected to. As you can see, these signs of gender-based violence, one of us who has been subjected might be feeling those feelings, but also others around us might have those feelings. So pay attention to your friends, to your colleagues, to your family members, and whether they are having those feelings or not, because they might be subjected to gender-based violence. What are the forms of gender-based violence? So in general, many organizations talk about 4 forms of gender-based violence. I will be sharing with you more than that. But let us start with physical violence. What is it? It is using physical violence, such as hitting, slapping, or pushing. Another form is sexual violence. It's pressuring or forcing someone to perform sexual acts against their will. This can start from kissing to sexual intercourse. Also, please pay attention that if somebody gives consent to have a sexual interaction or intercourse, and then during the sexual intercourse, they want to stop it, and they still continue to be pressured, this is considered sexual violence. Emotional violence or psychological violence is a difficult form of violence because it is not seen, it is not visible, and it may include humiliating, threatening, insulting, pressuring, or possessiveness, controlling decisions and activities. Another form is economic violence. Examples may include withholding of household financial resources, such as any support a person might need, food, any form of abandonment, preventing a partner from earning an income or taking over their income. Another form is the inability to own property. For example, in some cultures, women are denied owning land, and this is also a form of economic violence. I would like to share with you 4 more forms of gender-based violence. Spiritual violence, which occurs when persons use other person's spiritual beliefs to manipulate, dominate, or control that person. Cultural violence occurs when a person is harmed as a result of practices that are part of her or his culture, religion, or tradition. Neglect, Neglect is also a serious form of gender-based violence. It might be some persons that are older might be subjected to it, or also younger children might be subjected to neglect. Verbal abuse occurs when somebody uses language, whether spoken or written, to cause harm to a person. I would like to focus a little bit on this form of gender-based violence because now it's becoming a very serious and highly prevalent problem. It is called technology-facilitated gender-based violence. What does it mean? It means that any act of violence perpetrated by one or more individual that is committed, assisted, aggravated, and amplified by use of information and communication technology or digital media against a person on the basis of their gender. It occurs in all societies worldwide, and it is gendered and rooted in gender inequality, thereby disproportionately impacting women and girls in all their diversity. It can have severe impact on the health and well-being and lives of the survivors. What are the forms? What happens? Usually we have online harassment. This is online gender and sexual harassment, cyber stalking, image-based sexual violence. This is very, very serious. Technology-facilitated sexual abuse, like using cell phones or social media to harass somebody or abuse them. Doxing, which is the non-consensual disclosure of personal information. Hacking, using personal information by accessing systems or resources, and this is illegal, especially if it is unauthorized. Recruitment, it's the use of technology to locate survivors in order to perpetrate violence, such as trafficking, marriage sites, dating sites. Impersonation, this is a process of stealing somebody's identity so as to threaten or intimidate them. Hate speech, it's also communication in speech, writing, or behavior using the technology. Defamation, which also damages person's reputation with the intention of humiliating, threatening, intimidating, and punishing a survivor. All these forms of technology-facilitated gender-based violence are very serious. Why? Because the technology is increasingly becoming a central part of the lives of adolescents. Adolescent boys and girls use the technology and online platforms to learn to stay connected with their peers. A study conducted by Plan International demonstrated in 31 countries among 14,000 girls showed us that in all regions, social media is most frequent at a young age, 15 age, and also younger. My grandkids now use the technology at age, starting very early, age 6, 8, and 12. Adolescent girls are a growing target. Please pay attention to that. Adolescent girls are subjected to technology-facilitated gender-based violence by virtue of their growing engagement and the use of technology and digital spaces. 80% of images of cases of child sexual abuse material are of girls aged 11 to 13, and adolescent girls are more often subjected to sexual digital abuse within the context of dating violence. As many as 58% of young women and adolescent girls have been harassed online, and 85% of those experienced multiple types of technology-facilitated gender-based violence. Technology-facilitated gender-based violence against adolescent girls is also intersectional, and that's an important point. Many of those who have been harassed and who identify as ethnic minority or members of the LGBTQIA+, or as having a disability said that they were harassed because of it. So if any of this sounds familiar to you, chances are you are being abused. Get help. It is so important to get help. The first step is often the hardest. If nothing is done, the abuse will not stop. Help is available. Help is available to you, to your friends, to your members of your family, to your colleagues, to students that go to school with you or to university, any member of your community or yourself. Get help. The first and important aspect of getting help is, if you are subjected to violence, is to be safe and find a place that you can go to that is very safe. Second, and in parallel, you need to start thinking about a safety plan. What does a safety plan mean? You need to know who you can rely on to reach out to. Is it a parent, a friend, a colleague, a community leader, a health provider, a teacher, anybody that you can trust, you can tell, and you can ask for help. Remember to find out their phone numbers and write them down on a piece of paper. So when you develop a safety plan, you write the names of people that you can reach out to, you write their phone numbers. If you are in a country where there is a helpline, and their helplines are now becoming more frequent and more available, if you are in a country where there is a helpline, please write down that number. If you have a cell phone, save that number in your cell phone. If you do not have access to a cell phone, find out who can have a cell phone that you can reach out to, and you can help you find out and reach out to that helpline. If you do not have a helpline, identify an organization, a local clinic that you can go to and seek help. Please seek help and get that help immediately. Help is now available. Many organizations are now very well trained. They are providing incredible services to survivors of gender-based violence. Again, the first step is often the hardest. If nothing is done, the abuse will not stop, and help is available. And I just want to say that if it hurts, it's not love. Please remember, if it hurts, it's not love. What are the health consequences of gender-based violence? So there are fatal outcomes. There are femicide, suicide, maternal mortality. These are the fatal outcomes of gender-based violence. There are non-fatal outcomes that affect a person physically, sexually, and also psychologically. Physically, persons who are subjected to gender-based violence might have fractures, chronic pain, chronic syndromes, permanent disability, and so on. Sexually transmitted diseases, unintended pregnancies, pregnancy complication, abortion complications, and so on. From a psychological perspective, persons who are subjected to violence might have depression, eating disorders, drug and alcohol abuse, poor self-esteem, post-traumatic stress disorder, and self-harm. If you observe any of these signs on a friend or a student that goes with you to school or to university, or co-worker, or a family member, or a neighbor, please try to help them. They might have been subjected to gender-based violence. Or encourage them to seek help. Encourage them to seek help. So what are the tips for you to stop violence? It is so important that we all join forces to try to stop gender-based violence. The first step, as I mentioned, is to tell somebody. If you are a victim or you are a witness, tell somebody. If you can trust anybody, such as a friend, parent, teacher, coach, brother, sister, or a neighbor, please tell them. But before you do that, I need you to think about yourself. Your safety is critical. Never subject yourself to any danger because of the fact that you wanted to help somebody. So, of course, we need to help people who are subjected to violence, but the first thing you need to think about is your safety. So make sure you are first safe, and then try to stop gender-based violence. Take a stand. If you are a witness, stand up, step in, shout out that the offender is actually the uncool one and the violence has to stop. Don't follow the crowd and don't give in to peer pressure. Many of us give in to peer pressure or are still giving in to peer pressure. It's not an easy situation because you want to be seen as a cool person with your friends. This is not cool. Gender-based violence is not cool. Don't participate in any form of violence or abuse just because your friends are participating. Take back the power. Offenders act violently or abusively to gain power. By not participating, you take the power away from the offender and pass it on to the victim. Remember, putting others down doesn't raise you up. And then also, violence might happen at any time. It can happen at night, during the day, anytime. Spread the word. Comfort the person who was hurt and make it known that what was happened is not fair to them and it is not deserved. Stay cool as much as you possibly can. Try not to respond to violence with anger. Anger can make things worse. Of course, this depends on any person's situation, but as much as you possibly can, stay cool. What are the things that we can do to help a friend who has been sexually assaulted? The first and most important aspect of it is to express care and concern by saying, I believe you, the assault was not your fault, and help is available. You are not alone. As I showed you previously, millions of people are subjected to violence globally. 1 in 3 women is subjected to violence. Many more men and boys are now coming forward. Members of the LGBTQI community, persons with disability, any one of us can be subjected to violence. Believe them. Make it clear to the survivor that you believe that the sexual assault happened and that it is not fair. Please try not to ask them why it happened. Like why? What's going on? Why were you wearing what? Or why were you alone? Or what were you doing in that place or another? Give them the time and space that they need. Let them know that they do not have to go through this alone. Please encourage them to seek immediate medical attention. It is so critical for anybody who is sexually assaulted to seek immediate medical attention. This is the most important step that they need to do to avoid being subjected to any sexually transmitted diseases or unwanted pregnancies. Please encourage them to seek immediate medical attention. Help them know their options. Give them control by believing them, by making feel that they are trusted, that you trust what they said, that you believe them, and so on. Important fact is to please maintain confidentiality. And again, take care of yourself and be patient and understanding to the survivor. What not to do? So do not pry for details. Again, remember to respect the survivor's privacy. Do not insist that the survivor talk about the incident again. Talking about the incident again might re-traumatize the survivor. In fact, in many situations, when the survivor keep repeating the story, they are re-traumatized time and again. Do not question the survivor's account or what they are saying. Do not judge, please. Do not judge the survivor. Remember, no one deserves to be violated or mistreated under any circumstances. And then also, do not become emotionally involved. Of course, this is not easy because it's a difficult situation when somebody is telling you how they were abused or how they were sexually assaulted, especially if it is somebody you know or you're friends with. We many times become emotionally involved. Try not to as much as you possibly can. please stay away from saying, you should have done this. Or, oh, that's not a big deal. Many of us are subjected to this. Or telling them, you could have been killed. Or telling a survivor, calm down. Stay away, please, from those words. Or, I know how you feel. Nobody knows how the survivor feels. Each person reacts to sexual and gender-based violence differently. Or stay away from saying, if I were you, I would do this. Please stay away from those words. So some of the critical reflections that I would like to share with you at the end, that it is so important for us to be aware of our own beliefs and attitudes. Our own beliefs and attitudes affect us and affects people around us. Reflect on them. Try to change your mindset. Try to self-reflect on whether you have been engaged in gender-based violence, or you are a witness of gender-based violence, or you have been subjected to gender-based violence. There is never a reason to blame a survivor. And safety for the survivor is a very long-term goal. It's not quickly achieved. So by encouraging a survivor to seek help, they will be on the right track to start living a healthier life and to be able to stop or prevent violence in their lives. So you have a role to play. Learn to listen with your eyes by giving your undivided attention, with your ears to truly hear the person who is subjected to violence with concern, and also listen with your heart, with caring and respect. Stand up, step in, and reach out. Take action against gender-based violence. We need everybody to support us and other organizations that are really working to prevent and respond to gender-based violence by taking action. I want to thank you for joining me today. Again, my name is Taroub Harb Faramand, and here is my contact information, my email. I would like to hear from you, and thank you very much for joining us today.